Hello everyone, welcome to Lit Studio by Karishma. So today we are going to talk about Michael Foucault, who is a very well-known post-structuralist. So before this class, we've dealt with the basic idea of post-structuralism and what are the key features of post-structuralism. So if you haven't watched that class yet, please make sure you watch that video before this so that you can understand what his ideas are all about. So now let's get into the explanation of the concepts of Michael Foucault. But before that, Michael Foucault, who was born in the year 1926, was a French philosopher, well known for his critical analysis on power relationships and social structures. You have to remember these key details about Michael Foucault. He dealt with the ideas of power relationships and social structures in a society. So his major works include Madness and Civilization, which was published in the year 1961, The Birth of the Clinic, which was published in the year 1963, The Order of the Things, 1966, Archaeology of the Author, 1969, Discipline and Punish, 1975, The History of Sexuality, 1976. So out of these important works, you should remember almost all of the works, but Madness and Civilization and The Birth of the Clinic are very key important works that Michael Foucault has written. Also remember their publication dates, and you also have to remember the concepts that were given by him and also in which of the books that he has given those concepts. All right, so now let's jump into the concepts that has been given by Michael Foucault. First and foremost thing, the concept of madness, which is given in the work Madness and Civilization. In this work, he talks about how mad people are treated differently in the times, that is, especially during Renaissance times, and how they are treated now. If you look into the time period, or if you look into the ways that the mad people were treated during the Renaissance times, they were treated as if they are different, but not in a bad way. They are treated as if they are wise people. If you look into any of the stories of any of the philosophers like Socrates or anybody else, we would see details like everyone thinking that they are mad people, but you understand that there is some level of wisdom in their preachings. So that is how mad people were treated. Everybody was of the belief that they were unique in their way of thinking. But only during the recent times, there has been a kind of belief that mad people need some treatment. Mad people are a threat to the society. So, according to Foucault, they are now given more privilege and drugs to treat them. Many psychoanalytical attempts were made by Freud and others to provide new ways of treatment. So there was no concept of treatment for the mad people in the olden days or during the times of Renaissance that Foucault has talked about. But now there is an attempt made by many of the people to cure them. So it was never a sickness to begin with. That is what Foucault says. But Foucault rejects the idea of treating them differently because he says that the society now thinks that there is something wrong with a mad person. Whereas during Renaissance times, people looked at them as wise men and treated to be unique. That is why they were allowed to roam freely. He goes on to say that mad people should not be treated as a threat to the society and not to put them in an asylum and so on. And then his second concept and very important concept was gaze or medical gaze. It was given in the book The Birth of the Clinic. So now, The Birth of the Clinic, here he says that before the development of the medical industry, doctors never used to look at their patients with medical gaze. That is, now they look at them as mere objects, as mere consumers, as mere commodities, or as mere organs. But before them, there is this spirit of humanity between two individuals. But now doctors do not look at their patients just as other humans, but they look at them as commodities. They look at their patients with medical gaze. So if you have observed any of the trends, if you've ever been to a hospital, you would notice that there are different kinds of room for different kinds of people, different kinds of financial status, right? So now every doctor treats their patients as consumers who would bring them financial prosperity. So there is no aspect of humanity involved in this subject. All right, everything has become so commercial. So this commercial aspect brings about the gaze or medical gaze in the doctors among their patients. That is what he says. Foucault is of the belief that in earlier days there was no such thing as medical gaze because medical industry has not been so rampant. The business has not been so rampant. It was never a business to begin with. But now, as it was made into a business, it has been so commercialized. Now doctors look at their patients with that gaze. All right. So Foucault is against the idea of medical gaze. And then comes panopticism. Panopticism is actually a kind of tower that is in the jail that can look into any of the cells, but no cell can look into the panopticism, or in no criminal in the cell can look into what is inside the tower, or they cannot look into any other people inside any of the cells. All right. So in the work Discipline and Punish, he gives the idea of panopticism. This book also has a subtitle of Birth of Prison. He talks about prisoners. As he is from France, he talks about the prisoners of France and other European countries, especially France and England. He talks about the history and practices of punishing a crime during the late 18th and 19th centuries. So that is what his idea of panopticism is: being able to watch everybody else and being able to judge. But the people inside the cell would not be able to look into any other person. So that is what panopticism is all about. So these are the key features of Michael Foucault. But there are other key concepts of his as well, which would be very long for this lecture. So I would include other important concepts given by Michael Foucault in other lecture that I would release shortly. So please make sure you watch that as well. This would be part 1 of the series, and that would be part 2. So yeah, that is it. I hope you understand everything that we've covered so far. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you.